Hey everybody, I'm sure you heard that thunder. That was like right above me. Welcome to episode 50 of Teach Play Disc Golf. I'm your host Antonio and I'm so excited for this week's episode. Sorry the posting has been a little sporadic recently, but I'm very excited to have you with me here today. Episode 50 is a special one. First off, I know a lot of popular podcasts obviously are hitting 50 episodes, but I just don't really know how many people start episodes and get all the way to episode 50. It's been a little bit of a journey, and that's actually what we're going to talk about in today's show. We're going to just talk about Gladiator Disc Golf, and in talking about that, talking about Teach Play Disc Golf, this podcast. So I'm super excited for, this little history lesson and to just kind of talk about the things that I've gone through over the last 6 years with creating content and the things that I'm looking most forward to in the future. So without further ado, let's get into it. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys, the fans, the supporters, people who have been with me, whether from the very beginning or just this is your first time listening to me talk on this podcast, first time you've heard of Gladiator Disc Golf. I'm so appreciative of you, from listening and watching episodes on my YouTube channel to following me on Instagram to using my discount codes, saving yourself, supporting me as well in that. It really means a lot to me. I started Gladiator Disc Golf in September 2019. So I'm very close to 6 years of creating content, specifically disc golf content. And it has been a lot of fun, challenging a lot. It's challenged me quite a bit, but it's been a lot of fun along the way. And I've learned so much. And, when I started in 2019, the mission then is the same now, to teach people how to play disc golf. And that is something that I've always enjoyed doing and what I always come back to, especially when the days or the weeks or the months, maybe even some of the years, honestly, have been a little difficult. It's always come back to, why did I start doing this in the beginning? And that was to teach people how to play disc golf, how to improve their game, to get better, and document my journey along the way as part of that. I think about some videos I've done and videos I've looked back on and see clips of, and some of it is rough, whether it's the editing, whether it's the form, whatever it is. But it's just really cool to be able to look back on 6 years of content and be able to actually have those thoughts and see those things. And so going all the way back to 2019 is pretty crazy because the COVID pandemic hasn't even hit yet. Disc golf is in a very small stage compared to what it was about to experience and encounter in 2020 to 2022, that window of time specifically. But yeah, through all of that, the goal has always been to teach people this awesome game that I love. And it's something that I truly care about because I enjoy it a lot. But I also think that it's a great way for people to get outside, which is super important, and to exercise, which is just as important as being outside. And I think that's one of the beauties of disc golf, is being able to tie all those things together. And the fact of the matter is, disc golf is a low entry point sport. Okay, and what I mean by that is it really doesn't take a lot of money. I know I've been guilty of this myself. Like, man, some of these discs nowadays are just so expensive. Like, I'm not talking about like resale market, but just, man, getting some of these discs for $25, $27. Sure, you can still find cheaper ones, which is what I go for anyway. But just the whole fact of the matter, everybody's got Tour Series now. Everybody has mystery boxes with their lineups. You have so many new manufacturers and disc golf companies that one company might manufacture here and there. So it's just really grown a lot. And but at the end of the day, it is still a fairly low entry point sport because you can go to a disc golf store and buy a starter pack for $30 or $40 and play. There aren't very many sports out there that for just $30 or $40 you can play disc golf. And that's getting a brand new starter pack. If you go to a place in Dallas that's called Replay Disc Golf or Replay Sports Gear, you can buy used discs for as low as like $4 or $5. It's similar to a oh man, what's the one that I forget the name of the one that's all over the country. Play It Again. Okay, so Play It Again is similar to what Replay is, but Replay is local to the Dallas area. There's 2 stores, but just you can get something really, really cheap. Or if you know someone who plays disc golf, chances are they have discs that you can use for free. So that's what I mean when I talk about the sport being such a low entry point, because anyone can play it and you don't have to spend a lot of money. That's just not the case for a lot of other sports, and that's one reason why I've loved this sport so much, because I've been able to get so many of my friends to play, my family to play. And even though not everybody takes to it as like something they're going to go out and do on their own, they're able to enjoy the time that we're out there. They realize how tough it actually is, that I'm not just some nerd or whatever, or maybe I'm still a nerd afterwards, but they still at least have a better appreciation for this game and everything that's involved with that. So it's really one of the big things for me, because I care about helping people get to a point where they're exercising, enjoying being outside and doing those things. And disc golf has kind of been that avenue for me. And then what has happened from the very beginning is getting to teach people this game, and that's something that I've really enjoyed, and it's been a lot of fun. I've not just come across, but I've met so many amazing people who have really challenged me in ways with my content creation, but also just the way I think about certain things and how I want to create content, what I want to do, so on and so forth. I've been able to meet so many people because of this. And you guys have met a lot of them through this podcast, through my YouTube channel, people that wouldn't necessarily have their own platform, but because of connections I've been able to make through disc golf, they were able to get here and talk about these things and share these things. And then some of them have gone on to have pretty good platforms. Tanner McCartney is really growing a lot on Instagram, and he was the very first guest that I had on this podcast. And if you were outside of the Texas area, really Austin, Texas specifically, with Mint Discs, you may not have heard much of Tanner. And I hope that some of you were exposed to who Tanner is as a person, as a disc golfer. Really good guy. A lot of you probably knew who Tayi was before he came on the show, but he came on the show, and it's been really fun following his journey. And Noah Cronin, one of my favorite disc golf content creators, he's been in this for even longer than I have been. And it's just been so awesome to really have an opportunity to get to meet and talk and hang out with some of these people that I otherwise wouldn't have. And so I've really enjoyed that opportunity, because I've always tried to use it as a way to help others learn this game. And so, if at any point that you felt like you've learned something, you have, found something fun and entertaining, whatever it might be, make sure that you are following and subscribing to my different channels and all that stuff. Sorry for the shameless plug here, but I enjoy doing this, and if you enjoy listening, I want you to get more of this content. But that's kind of the goal. How I started, it was, in 2019, I didn't even know how to use a DSLR camera to edit video. So we're talking like me starting creating content is going to very, very basic, fundamental stuff. I'm having to learn how to record video. I'm having to learn how to use a camera. And thankfully, it was a low entry point for me with that, because my wife did photography in high school. And so she had a camera that she hadn't touched in a little while. And so I was like, can this do video? And I was figuring that out. And I was like, oh, it can do video. So I'm learning now all this stuff about video. I'm watching just as many YouTube videos about how to record good video as I am watching Jomez Pro at the time, So just like all this different stuff, all this content consumption, and really learning how to do it, learning how to edit video as well. I've never had somebody else edit video for me, and that's been challenging at times, because one, I've obviously never been able, in case you didn't know, I've never been able to afford having somebody edit for me, but I've always enjoyed the process of learning something new. And so learning iMovie, getting familiar with that, learning how to just make clean video and making cuts and edits and color grading and all this other stuff. And then a lot of you have given me helpful tips along the way to like, hey, try this when you're editing color, or try this when you're working on focus, try this, and this. And it's really been helpful, and it's also been very humbling, which at times has been very hard, but other times it's been very helpful. And it's just crazy to think about that a lot of what I get to do professionally now started because of just a little disc golf YouTube channel. Now, I'm not going right now and like making videos for businesses and companies and editing them. I'd love to do that, but just the way it kind of got me into content creation, and I, am now writing full time, doing copywriting, content writing, blogs, articles, web pages, landing pages, Google ads, meta ads, social media posts, really understanding this content world that we're living in with all the different things that we have accessibility to and so on and so forth. And I really got into all that because I started a random disc golf YouTube channel. And one of the things that obviously most people aren't going to know is that for about the first 7 months, I had no more than 40 subscribers. And several of those subscribers were some of my friends and family who like subscribe to support and that kind of thing. But eventually what happened was we had the COVID pandemic 7 months later, and people started trying to find ways to be outside without, all the other restrictions that we were having to deal with. And they found disc golf, and so they started searching disc golf YouTube channels. And so one thing led to another. That's when Jomez was already popular among disc golfers, but Jomez really exploded with all that. And my channel started to grow, by no means at the rate of Jomez, but it was just really cool to see that growth and to feel like I already had videos out there that people could come to and look to, and my channel started to grow a lot. And that was really cool to see the results of the hard work I've been putting in starting to, honestly starting to show up and seeing that. And so that was a really cool journey over the first year, just seeing that growth, dealing with some of those challenges, and then realizing like, wow, okay, now that I have, 500 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, 2,000 subscribers, it's like, okay, there are people with getting their eyes on these videos. And with that, you have a lot of support. And then with that, you have a lot of criticism. You have a lot of, maybe reading the tone into some of the messages, but but then it's like, okay, now I'm coming across more disc golf content creators over the years. I'm coming across other people who are doing things objectively better than I was doing them, whether it was with their editing or with their video skills and so on and so forth. And, for a good chunk of time there, I was really struggling with a lot of different things in regard to this, because I knew that I was so far back in seemingly what a lot of these people had. It was, they were already, video editors, and then they got into disc golf, and so they knew how to record, or they could easily pick up a camera and record, but they knew how to edit and make it look really good. And I was like, well, I don't know how to do that. And then you have people who have been working on camera or were very familiar with recording, and now they were just making disc golf content, and they had very great personalities on camera. And just all of this happening because the sport was growing in popularity. And as something like that grows in popularity, you get a lot more people bringing attention to it with content that they're making, with content that they're doing on YouTube, on Instagram, eventually on TikTok, all of that. And so what happened is, what started off as like a good, healthy competition for me really got into an unhealthy place where it was a really negative competitive comparison. And it wasn't so much that I was putting other people down in my mind. It was more so I was constantly putting myself down. I was constantly pushing myself to be better and to do better and so on and so forth, while at the same time working a full-time job, right? And for those of you that don't know, like a 5 to 8 minute YouTube video is not, 1 hour of video and editing and publishing. it takes, depending on the kind of content, depending on the B-roll and so on and so forth, the editing that has to be done afterwards, it could take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours for a 5 to 8 minute video if you're really trying to do a good job of it. If you're really trying to pay attention to the edits, pay attention to timing, visual cues, slate over, overlays and all this kind of stuff. When you're really paying attention to all that and you're really trying to dial that in and work on an intro, graphics, work on outro graphics, transitions, so on and so forth, it all adds up in time. And I was really having to manage a full-time job and doing all of this on the side, knowing that it's going to take me 10 to 12 hours to put out one video a week. So it was, a 50 to 55 hour week. And on top of that, I was also still trying to play disc golf for fun. And so you add a couple more hours to that. And then, I was married. And so spending time with my wife, going and spending time with family. Over the years, what ended up happening is I was getting really, really burned out because I was putting so much pressure on myself to turn this disc golf YouTube channel into a vehicle for a career. Like, making disc golf content is my career. And the thing is, while that's all good and well in your own thought process, it was putting me in a place where I was holding myself to such incredibly high standards, knowing that I didn't have the full capability of meeting those standards. And it was just spiraling into self-doubt. It was spiraling into burnout, having a really hard time wanting to make content. And at one point, it really pushed me to a point where I was questioning my love for disc golf. Like, I'd literally go play a casual round and I'd be like, is this even fun anymore? And that was hard because I love disc sports. I played Ultimate Frisbee in college and fell in love with it. I played it a couple times growing up and always enjoyed it. But in college, I really got into it. And then after college, disc golf came along because I couldn't find any Ultimate Frisbee leagues. And so I started, a friend of Matt taught me how to play disc golf when I moved to Texas. And, I fell in love with it immediately. I was like, this is so cool. I was so bad, but it was still so much fun. And I just really, I would say, year 3 to 4 was really starting to question my love for disc golf. Not content creation, like that wasn't even a thought because I was just trying to figure out, do I even love playing disc golf anymore? And I was saying yes, but my attitude was often saying no because I record a video and I get so frustrated with, you guys never saw that because it was an outtake, but like I get really frustrated about things, or I'd get really angry with myself and I'd have a hard time doing this, or I'd record video and it just looked total, crappy on camera. And then I'd look at my game and I'm like, man, you've been playing disc golf for how many, 3-4 years now, 5 years, and you still can't do this in your game. You're still not good enough to throw this far or this fast or shoot this rating or, have your overall rating be this. And it just was so much internal pressure. No external pressure. I wasn't having people DM me on Instagram and say, hey, you suck at this, or why aren't you doing this? But it was all internal. And it got to a point where it was just too much. Like, not just my wife was having a hard time with me continuing to making disc golf content, but I was too. And we had many conversations, and it was one of those where when I moved to Tennessee in 2022, I took about 3 months off at the beginning of 2023. I had made a few videos in that last quarter of 2022 after moving, but I took a break in the beginning of 2023 because I was just like, I need to pump the brakes here. Things are changing, like for me. A lot had changed. We had just moved halfway across the country for a job that at the time of this recording, I'm not even at anymore. Like, I left and we moved back to Texas. And so, a lot was happening, a lot was changing, and I just needed some time to reflect on what I wanted out of Gladiator Disc Golf and to figure out if I still wanted to keep doing it. And so after that time, after about 3 months, I realized I still want to make content. I still enjoy playing disc golf because now I'm in a new part of the country playing courses that are brand new to me, and I'm finding myself enjoying it again. But I knew I didn't want to keep making weekly content for the time being. I needed to slow things down. I needed to just work on Antonio. I needed to not work on Gladiator Disc Golf. I needed to just work on me. And so what I did was I found a happy medium in this podcast, Teach Play Disc Golf. You know, a podcast still takes time and effort to record and edit and publish, but the amount of time and effort is nothing compared to making weekly videos. And so, and it was a new thing for me to learn. And so, you know, that was the really cool thing is in March 2023, my birthday month, I dropped 4 brand new episodes, you know, at once. Like, hey, there's this brand new disc golf podcast, Teach Play Disc Golf, and here are 4 episodes that you can listen to right away. And so obviously I had spent the month of March recording those episodes, learning how to edit them, learning the process of a podcast. That way, when things went and published, I'd be able to, you know, already have a rhythm of episodes and how I want to do it. I wasn't having to learn week by week. I could spend a couple weeks really refining that process and getting a better hang of it. And Teach Play Disc Golf has gone through a couple iterations. For those of you who have watched the video element of this, you've seen a lot of different layouts. You've seen a lot of different just structure and the way things visually look. And in retrospect, and you know, 2020 hindsight, I've realized, you know, in the beginning, I was learning a lot of new things, and one of the challenges when you're learning new things is wanting to apply everything immediately. And so I was like, oh, let me apply this, let me apply that, let me do this, let me do that, and it was just a lot. And my computer could not handle it. At that point, I had a MacBook Pro that was 8 years old, and it was doing fine, but there were certain elements that would just slow it down in the editing process. And so I was like, okay, I have to refine things. So obviously I love tweaking and trying new things and that kind of thing, but I have pretty much figured out how I want it to look, you know, with overlays, with text graphics, with an intro and outro. And I've just realized over time that, listen, it's a podcast. I don't know the exact percentage, but I'm just going to make one up. 99% of people listen to a podcast. 1% are listening and watching a podcast. And if you're watching, I appreciate that. Whether you're on Spotify or YouTube, I appreciate that. But for the most part, people are watching or listening to a podcast, not watching it. And so it really helped me get into a rhythm when I was going through the edits with Teach Play Disc Golf to realize, like, hey, I can take it easy with some of this. I don't have to put as much effort or put as much time. I should say it's still effort, but I didn't have to put as much time into the editing process because it's just conversation. And so that was really cool. And after a couple months of that in 2023, starting in March 2023, I went several more months without making, except on like Instagram and everything, but on YouTube, not making actual instructional content. And after a couple months of this, I was really enjoying it. I decided, you know, old habits die hard. I was like, let me try doing, you know, Spotify's subscribers and YouTube memberships and trying all that. And, you know, as I'm prone to do, I overcomplicate things a little bit for myself. Not really for anybody else, but mainly for myself. And so now I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what this additional content is going to be, how I'm going to record it, what I'm going to do. And that's when I started having the class in session sections of the podcast. Because, you know, Teach Play Disc Golf, it made sense to me, okay, a special session called class in session, like sitting down with guests and talking about some really cool stuff and making it to where it was essentially behind a paywall is what it is. Whether it's a membership or subscription, it's behind a paywall. And, you know, I did that for a while, and I realized that it just really wasn't what I wanted anymore. And so fast forwarding real quick, we'll get back to that timeline, but fast forwarding really quick to now, all those episodes are made available to the general public. After a little while, I realized that this is not what I wanted. I just want to make content. Putting myself in the headspace of trying to make money, trying to do this, trying to maybe, disc golf content creator for a living kind of thing, like just was not, I am religious, I am a Christian, it's not what God was wanting for me, and it is okay. Like, I can still enjoy something without having to make it a living. And that was really what that middle section of this content creation journey was for me, is figuring out that not everything I enjoy has to be monetized. And I think growing up in hustle culture, being a millennial, obviously, being active on Instagram with posting things, it's very easy to fall into the trap of that hustle culture, monetizing your hobbies and so on and so forth. It's very easy to fall into that trap. But ultimately, what I came back to time and time again is I love disc golf and I just want to teach people how to play. And so all those class and session episodes are open and available. They're to the public. They're no longer behind paywalls. And, that really helped a lot mentally for me. It just really, really, really helped me overcome a lot of those things. And that was a fairly recent thing that I just changed. But, I realized after doing all those guests and having so many great guests come on that it was starting to be a lot for me, because I was wanting to make good quality content that would be worth the time and people's money. And what I realized is I was having to commit an hour and a half at the most, sometimes as much as 2 hours, to recording a podcast. And that would be for a segment that not everybody was going to get to listen to, and then the main show that anyone could listen to. And it was great. I had a lot of great conversations. Most full conversations were between 60 and 90 minutes, and then they would get split in post-production. But it was just like, this is not just my time. This is other people's time as well. And that was really where I started to get to be like, okay, having guests on is great, but the current layout that I have for myself, nobody ever said anything bad about it, but it was just like, I want to be respectful of these people who are in different time zones, so on and so forth. I was like, I feel like it's just going a little too long. And the other thing is, I don't want a 45 to 60 minute episode. I want to have digestible content. And so I took a break in July 2024. My last episode was with Yanni for a while. And I mean, that was a great episode. If you have not listened to that one, Spin Doctor Yanni, Yanni Going Places on Instagram, great content creator. Really enjoyed that conversation with him, and it was definitely one of my favorite interviews that we've done, and we just had great conversation. I really encourage you to check that episode out. But I did that episode, and then I just ended up not scheduling more guests and not really making myself record any podcasts, because in all the hustle and bustle of trying to get all this content over the last year and a half or so, I was burning myself out on the podcast, because I'm a one-man show working a full-time job and then making all this content. And so I just realized I cannot handle this stuff. At work was, really stressful too. And then I found out my wife was getting laid off around the time, shortly after that episode with Yanni. And so it's just like, there were things far more important in life happening than to maintain a disc golf podcast. As much as I might enjoy it, it just wasn't a priority. There were other things that were more important. So between finding out, my wife getting laid off, to then us deciding that I would leave my job and that we would move back to Texas and be with family and so on and so forth, things kind of paused for a little bit. And in that time, I had gotten back into making YouTube content, making more instructional videos. But I was like, it's been a little while. So when I get to Texas, I don't have a job lined up yet, but I'm going to take that time and I'm going to do a 30 videos in 30-day challenge. I was like, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. I started content planning, structuring, writing video scripts, getting things ready. And it was a really good challenge for me in a lot of ways because it was getting back into making that video content, editing that video content. But it was really hard because doing, when people do like Vlogmas, when they're doing those 25 videos in 25 days, you got to understand, like, they are on December 14th, let's say, filming content, December 14th, editing content, December 14th, scheduling the content to publish on December 15th. And then when they wake up on December 15th, they're doing it all over again. And that's essentially what this was, is record a video or try to bulk record, because I wasn't having to, it was a little different for me. But, I could try and record, 3 to 4 videos, and then I'd have to go and edit them. And then I'd have to schedule them and to get them published and so on and so forth. And I'd have to do that over and over. Well, then I had a couple hiccups along the way. I had the NADGT, and I was trying to get content backlogged in time to publish while I was playing in that tournament in Austin, but it just wasn't possible. Okay. And then I had a couple other things come up, and eventually what ended up happening is, I was like, okay, making 3 to 5 minute videos, still taking a lot of time. And I was just like, okay, let me just start making these into some shorts. And so, the 30 and 30 really took more like 60, I think, is what it ended up happening. And near the end of it, it was quite a few shorts because it was just what was working for me. I live in East Texas right now, and the closest disc golf course, like real disc golf course, is 45 minutes away. So, there's one in a town nearby that's like a little rinky-dink 9-hole course, but I don't play. And then there's one on the other side that's about 25 minutes away. That's a good 9-hole course, but still just one of those. Most disc golf courses are 30 minutes or further. And the ones that are really fun to play, really challenging in ways, good for video, are 45 minutes plus away from me. And so, that was the thing with the 30 and 30 challenge as well. That was posing a challenge to me, is the time commitment on just driving, and so I would go to a course and I'd have to film multiple videos to make it feel like it was worthwhile, because I couldn't just go every single day because you have gas expense, right? And thankfully my wife found a job, but I still, at the time of this recording, still looking for one. It's been really, really hard. But, just going through all that and having that challenge, and really learning a lot about myself and what I want out of Gladiator Disc Golf, and realizing that, hey, I really miss Teach Play Disc Golf. I really miss my podcast. It was a lot of fun. I talked with some incredible people, and although, not everything's about views, and even though it doesn't get a lot of views, I really enjoy doing it. And I know that there are people like you listening who crave this content and wanted this content, because I was gone for 8 months, and I'm looking at my Spotify analytics for the podcast and how many episodes have been watched in my absence, how many people have subscribed and followed in my absence. I'm like touched, absolutely touched, because people are wanting this content, people are listening, and it's just, and they want it so much, like they are listening to multiple episodes and they're subscribing and they're following, and it's just like, okay, I can do this and just manage it. And so that's kind of what's been happening recently now, as we fast forward to today, is making Instagram, and I've really kind of pivoted, I think, naturally just to the occasional YouTube video, and trying to put more shorts out there. I have shorts that I've posted, or I have short reels and stuff I've posted on Instagram that I haven't posted on YouTube, so I'm trying to be better about that. But making that short form content, it's fun to edit. It's brand new for me to kind of edit really in depth, not just editing on Instagram. But occasionally making a longer form video, but really going back into the podcast and enjoying having that conversation and just talking with you guys and just enjoying that time. It's just something ultimately that I really enjoy. And at this current point in time, I have found myself to just be really enjoying disc golf a lot more than I was a few years ago. My game has improved because I took so much pressure off. I was dealing with the constant struggle of, do I play a casual round or do I record content? And I couldn't always, can't always do both. And, nowadays I don't really worry about that, which for me, I feel like is a lot of personal growth in that I'm able to say, yeah, I'm just going to go out and I'm just going to have fun. And now that I have a DJI Action 5 Pro, which has been awesome, it's what I'm recording this podcast on actually, it has made recording content at the disc golf course a lot of fun because it's so easy to do. It doesn't feel cumbersome, okay, for just myself or when I'm with Matt. It's really easy for him to just boop, click the record button again to turn it off. It's not a big deal. It's fun. I send him clips of him throwing and everything afterwards. And so it's just, disc golf is in a much better place. Now, in that, being able to sort of start to have fun again and enjoy it, and not feeling the constant need to make content, those 2 years in Tennessee, my disc golf game grew tremendously. Between 2022 and 2024, I got to be such a better disc golfer, specifically with my backhand. So I always struggled with the backhand. I was forehand dominant for a while, and the backhand eluded me for a long time. And so when I moved to Tennessee, I was really hopeful that a new environment, new courses, I could start really dialing in the backhand with confidence. And that's exactly what happened. You hear about it with professional athletes all the time. Sometimes all they need is a change in scenery, a change in location. Going from one team to another can just be exactly what they need to get back on the right track. And that's exactly what it was for me with my backhand. I didn't have any mental blocks in Tennessee because all the courses in, Dallas that I played, I had memories of having bad throws with backhands, so on and so forth, that I didn't have that here. And so it was a clean slate. I could learn something new, and I wasn't focused on making content anymore. I was focused on becoming a better disc golfer, which, yes, you get better when you're making content, but there's so many other things that you're more concerned about when you're recording than getting better as a disc golfer. And this time I was actually able to focus on me. And it was really cool over the 2 years to see that growth. And now it's continued here in Texas. And that's just been a lot of fun. Ultimately, what I had to do was level set expectations for what I wanted in disc golf content creation and why I do what I do. And I just always came back to that why of teaching people this awesome game I love, and that is what I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to continue teaching people this game and just really having fun with that and enjoying that, and really working on not putting pressure on me to do it for other reasons. And that has really helped. There's still some internal struggle with that at times, but overall it's been so much better, so much more enjoyable. And I don't find myself getting frustrated while playing disc golf in regard to content creation. Sometimes I find myself getting really frustrated because I'm just sucking it up one day. But overall, it's been much better. And, I think that's ultimately all that we're wanting and what we're looking for. And so I realize now that in the spirit of wanting to make shorter podcasts, I now made a longer podcast. I'm looking at my timer being about 39 minutes now. It'll be a little less once I edit it at this point, but we're going a little long here. So I'm sorry for that, but I hope that, with episode 50, I just wanted to kind of tell the story of Gladiator Disc Golf, tell the story of Teach Play Disc Golf, and that, we're 50 episodes in, and I look forward to the next 50 episodes because it's just going to be continuous education and growth and teaching. And I do want to get guest input on the show. I don't know that I'm ready to get back into hosting guests and coordinating all of that because it's a lot. But if you guys want to learn from other disc golf coaches and content creators on this show, let me know in the comments below, liking this video, messaging me on Instagram, commenting on YouTube, commenting on Spotify as well. Like, just letting me know, like, hey, I'd love to see this person, or just in general, yeah, I would love that. That helps me know that there's a craving for that out there, and I can get tidbits where it's like, hey, can you record yourself talking about this and send it to me, and then I can include that in here, or just a message and I can include that in here. something like that is kind of where I would want to go next if I was to get guest input on the show again, because it was really fun talking about things that mattered to other people. What kind of behind the scenes of that is we would review a disc that was their favorite disc. We would review a tip that I knew they were really good at or that they talk a lot about on their channel. Like, I wasn't just having these guests on and making them talk about things I wanted to talk about. We were talking about them. We were talking about their interests, their stories, their disc golf journeys, and that kind of thing. So I'd love to bring elements of that back, but definitely in a much more manageable setting. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and this won't take nearly as long, so I appreciate your patience and I appreciate your support if you're still listening here, is what I'm looking forward to in the future for Gladiator Disc Golf, Teach Play Disc Golf, and just Antonio as a disc golfer. So, it took way longer than I would have anticipated. I had my first 900 plus rated round, I think like a year, 2 years into disc golf, but 2 to 3 years into this, but I was a forehand dominant player, which I thought was pretty good, hitting 900 plus rated rounds while only throwing forehands and the occasional backhand upshot. But it to actually become consistent and play enough tournaments to where that rating finally got above 900, that just happened earlier this year for me in 2025. And so that was really exciting to see, because I had multiple tournaments where I had 940 plus rated rounds, 920 plus rated rounds, but they'd always be paired with an 880, or I'd have 2 rounds of like 895 plus to 895 to 900, and that was good, but it was like never enough to really push me over the edge. And I finally, the getting above the 900 rating happened when I also won my very first disc golf tournament a few months ago, or for depending on when you're listening to this, in the first few months of 2025. And that was really, really cool, because I averaged, I think it was like 949 golf for the weekend. It was a 2-round tournament on one day. I averaged like 949 golf, and it catapulted me over. I wasn't just like, I made it to 901. I think I'm like 912 or 914 at the time of this recording. And that was just really fun to see, because I knew I had it in me and I finally pieced it together. And now what I'm looking most forward to is getting that disc golf rating to 950 plus, because I really feel like when I play casual rounds, when I have, those tournament rounds where everything is comfortable, I don't feel like I'm getting really lucky. I just feel like I'm executing my game. I'm rating 940, 950, 960 on some of those. And so it's just like, okay, I can get there. The talent, the ability is there. I just need to continue getting those rated rounds at that point, while not also putting that pressure. And truthfully, I think I felt more pressure trying to finally get to 900 rated than I will trying to get to 950, because I already proved it to myself. I already proved it to myself that I could do it, and now it's just about maintaining that. And so I'm really excited for that journey and getting to that disc golf rating. I'm hoping to do it this year. There's no reason why I can't do it this year. I have a couple of tournaments that I want to play that I'm really excited about. So it's just a matter of actually doing it. So that's what the first thing that I'm looking forward to in the future now is 950 plus rated, and then getting 400 feet of consistent distance. That might be surprising to some of you. My max distance that I've measured on like a real recent backhand throw is about, on flat ground, is 400 feet. Like exactly, I think it was. And I had another that was like 393, and those are with distance drivers. But yeah, getting these 920, 930, 950 rated rounds without being able to consistently throw more than 330 or 350, which I think is just a testament to that disc golf is not all about distance. That being said, I can reach that 950 rating that I want and higher if I can throw 400 feet of consistent distance, not just as max, but like, hey, I'm averaging between that 375 and 410 or 415 range of distance between like fairways and distance drivers, and doing that. And it's crazy that I'm talking about this to me, because not long ago I couldn't throw a backhand 300 feet. I'd never even threw drivers on backhand because I always threw them so poorly. I only threw putters and mid ranges. And so it's just a really cool reflection, like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, that seeing my growth as a disc golfer over the years, like I have it on camera, I have it in videos, I have it in conversations. And so it's just really surreal to me to be talking about hitting 400 feet consistently is a goal of mine this year. And then I kind of already mentioned this. I'm looking at my notes now and I realized I jumped ahead, so I won't spend much time on this. But having more guest thoughts on the podcast is something that I'm looking forward to in the future. And then the last thing is just continuing to enjoy making content. That's really important to me. It's something I enjoy. Been publishing some reels actually earlier today at the time of this recording, and been really enjoying that process and learning how to use my new camera. I got the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro very recently, not just for disc golf though, but for just life in general, like when we go on trips and do different things like that. Like, it's just a camera that I think that's totally worth the money that I got for my birthday and everything from family and friends. And so very excited to be using that and making content. And it's just been so easy to film disc golf content with as well, which has made it equally enjoyable. So that is what I'm looking forward to. Disc golf rating of 950 or higher, 400 feet of consistent distance, more guest thoughts on the podcast, and then just enjoy making content. So I really appreciate you all for listening and tuning in to this episode. I definitely want to get back in the swing of doing weekly podcasts, but what has been working for me recently has been bi-weekly. And so definitely enjoy you guys tuning in for episode 50 of Teach Play Disc Golf. I enjoy being here and talking with you, and I'd love to know, what are some of your goals for this year, for 2025? What are you trying to achieve in your disc golf game? And that's pretty much it, everybody. So we'll wrap up here. Remember to teach someone how to play disc golf this week. Whether that's a friend or family, just taking them out to the course, giving a kind word on social media to encourage someone to try something new, whatever it is, make sure you yourself also go out and play some disc golf. It's what we love to do. We love to go outside, get some exercise, and throw some stuff at stuff. And that's all I have for you today, everybody. So until next time, have a great round.